I never missed a family dinner. Not once in 6 years. Not when I had deadlines. Not when I was sick. Not even when I knew the drive back to Scarborough in Toronto winter traffic would take me 2 hours each way. I showed up because that's what I did. My name is Claire Glisson. I'm 34. I work at one of the big 5 banks in downtown Toronto. I assess risk for a living. I look at a file and I can tell you within minutes whether someone is a safe bet or a liability. Funny how long it took me to apply that same thinking to my own family. That Sunday started like the rest. Milton, my dad, called in the morning. Short, direct. Come over, important. No details. He never gave details, because details meant explaining himself, and Milton didn't do that. I arrived at noon. Luna, my mum, didn't greet me at the door. She was already seated, arms folded, expression flat, like this was a meeting she'd been waiting to get over with. The folder on the table told me everything before anyone spoke. Loan documents, pre-filled, my name already penciled into the cosigner line. The amount stopped me cold. "We need this sorted today," Milton said. I pulled out the chair slowly. "Have you looked at what you're actually asking for here, Dad?" "We know what we're asking for. The question is whether you're going to help your family or not." I sat with that for a second. 6 years of hydro bills covered, 6 years of phone plans under my account, their apartment guaranteed under my credit, Tad calling about car insurance, Mia's overdraft, Warren showing up twice last year with stories that always ended with him needing cash. 6 years of yes, and now this number on the table like it was nothing. "I need some time to think it through," I said. Milton leaned back. He looked at me the way he found problems he found inconvenient. "You don't get to think, Claire." His voice was flat, certain. "You're replaceable, remember that." Luna didn't flinch. She actually nodded. I looked at them both. The hum of the refrigerator, the grey afternoon lights coming through the window. Everything ordinary, everything calm, except something had just shifted in me that I knew wasn't shifting back. I stood up, picked up my bag and buttoned my coat. "Claire," Luna started. "I'll be in touch," I said. I walked out. The drive home was quiet. No music, no podcast, just the highway and the rain and that one word sitting in my chest like a stone. Replaceable. By the time I got back to my apartment, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger fades. What I felt was something steadier and quieter than that. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up every account, every plan, every guarantee with my name attached to someone else's life. There were more than I expected. I made a list, then I made a plan. Not out of spite, out of something I should have applied a long time ago. Risk assessment. Monday morning, I woke up early. Not because I had to, because I was ready. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop like it was any other workday. Quiet building, grey Toronto morning outside the window. I had my list from the night before sitting next to my mug. I started at the top. The credit cards were first. Luna and Milton each had a card linked to my account. Tad had one too. They called them emergency cards. Looking back at the statements, emergencies included restaurant bills, clothing hauls, and a weekend trip to Niagara Falls I was never invited on. I logged in. No phone calls, no warning texts. I deactivated every card that didn't have my name on it. Done. Next was the joint account. I was the only one putting money in. They were the only ones taking it out. There was just over $1,000 sitting there. I transferred every cent to my private savings and left the balance at 0. Then the phone plans. I called the carrier and asked to have the lines separated. The rep on the phone told me the others would face higher individual rates without my plan holding them together. "That's fine," I said. She processed it without another word. By early afternoon, I'd started the process of removing Tad and Mia from the auto insurance policy I'd been carrying. The confirmation emails came in one by one, quiet and clean, like closing tabs on a browser.
The last thing on the list was the biggest one, Milton and Luna's apartment. I was the guarantor on the lease. My credit score was the reason they had that address. The renewal was coming up in less than 5 weeks. All it required was my signature. I stared at that line for a long time. This wasn't cancelling a streaming service, this was a roof. But then I thought about that folder on the table, my name already penciled in before I even walked through the door, the assumption that I would comply, the certainty that I had no choice. I closed the laptop. I wasn't going to decide that one today, but I also wasn't going to sign anything just because a deadline was approaching. For the first time in 6 years, the money I earned on Friday was still sitting in my account on Monday. It was a strange feeling. Not happiness exactly, more like the absence of something heavy I'd gotten so used to carrying I'd stopped noticing the weight. My phone buzzed that evening, a message from Mia. "Hey, did something happen with the cards? Mine got declined at the mall." I set the phone face down on the counter. The silence that followed felt like the first honest thing this family had experienced in years. They just didn't know it yet.
It started with Luna. She didn't call, she texted. Luna always texted when she wanted to complain because a screen gave her distance and distance made her bolder. The message came in at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. She was at the grocery store. Her card had been declined in front of other people. She wanted to know what was wrong with the system and told me to fix it immediately. I read it twice. Then I typed back one sentence. "The card is deactivated. You'll need to use your own." Her response came fast, a long paragraph about how food was a basic need, how I was destroying the family over what she called a banking error, how she raised me better than this. I put the phone down and went back to my morning coffee. Tad called an hour later. He was at a gas station, somewhere off the 401. His card didn't work at the pump. His voice had that edge to it, the kind that expected me to apologise before he finished talking. "You left me stranded, Tad," he said. "I can't get home." "You have a job," I said. "Figure it out, call someone." "That's your solution, figure it out." "That's how most adults handle it, yes." He hung up on me. Warren sent 3 messages in a row, no punctuation, all caps by the third one. He wanted to know who gave me the right to make decisions that affected everyone without a family meeting. I didn't respond. By evening, Milton called. He skipped the small talk entirely. His voice was controlled but tight, like someone trying to sound calm while standing on something unstable. He told me I was humiliating them, that a daughter who respected her parents would never do something like this, that what I was doing was morally wrong and people in the community would hear about it. "I told you I was replaceable," I said. "I took your advice." Silence. Then he told me he would come to my workplace, talk to my manager, tell them the kind of person they had working for them. I almost laughed. "Milton," I said, and I used his name on purpose, "if you show up at my office, that becomes a legal matter, not a family one." I ended the call. I sat by the window for a while after that. The city was loud below. Streetcars, rain on the glass. Normal Tuesday night in Toronto. Inside my apartment, everything was still. No follow-up calls, no guilt creeping in through the walls, just the hum of my refrigerator and the glow of my laptop, and the quiet that comes when you stop performing for people who never appreciated the show. They were learning that the word replaceable cuts both ways, and I was just getting started. The lease renewal notice sat in my email for 3 days before the leasing office called. Professional, polite, they just needed confirmation. Was I renewing as guarantor for the unit in Scarborough? "No," I said. "I'd like my name removed, effective immediately." The agent explained what that meant. Without my guarantee, Milton and Luna would need to pass a full credit and income screening to stay in the unit. I already knew they wouldn't pass. "I understand," I said. "Please proceed." I hung up and went back to work. That same afternoon, I heard a knock at my apartment door. Except it wasn't really a knock, it was pounding, the kind that comes from someone who's never been told no and doesn't know how to process it. It was Mia and Warren standing in my hallway. Mia was talking before I fully opened the door. "The insurance company sent me a notice, Wanda. Claire, my car isn't covered. Do you know what happens if I get pulled over?" "You get your own policy," I said. "With what credit history? You've always handled everything. I don't even have a score." She wasn't wrong. By covering everything for so long, I'd accidentally made them invisible to the financial system. No credit history, no independent accounts, no record of ever managing anything on their own. That was real. I felt the weight of it for a second, but that wasn't my fault to carry anymore. Warren stepped forward. He wanted to talk reasonably, he said. He used that word specifically, reasonably, like I was the one who had been unreasonable. "Just sign the lease for 1 more year," he said. "Give them time to sort themselves out." "I've been giving them time for 6 years, Warren. This is different." "How?" He didn't have an answer for that. I closed the door. 2 days later, Milton and Luna showed up in person. Dean came with them, positioning himself as the calm one, the mediator, the voice of reason in a room that never needed one before, because I always just gave in. Luna's eyes were red. Milton stood straight, but his jaw was tight. "You're going to put us on the street," Milton said. "I'm removing my name from a lease. That's not the same thing. We have nowhere to go." "There are options: subsidised housing, rental assistance through the city. I can send you the links." Luna started crying, quiet and practised, the kind that had worked on me since I was a teenager. I watched it and felt something I hadn't expected. Nothing. Not coldness, not cruelty, just the absence of the panic that used to come with her tears, the panic that made me reach for my wallet just to make it stop. Dean tried last. 1 more year, he said, just to be safe, just to be kind. Signing that lease isn't kindness, Dean. It's me agreeing to be responsible for choices I had no part in making. I'm done doing that. They left. I stood at my window and watched their car pull out of the parking lot below. The leasing office sent a formal notice to the unit that evening, 30 days to vacate. I read the confirmation email once, then I closed it and made dinner. Somewhere across the city, a clock had started, and for the first time, it wasn't ticking for me.
The first week after the notice was the loudest. Messages came from numbers I didn't recognise, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, a family friend who called me ungrateful, someone's aunt who I'd met maybe twice at a Christmas gathering, telling me that family is everything. I blocked them as they came in. At work, I kept my head down. My desk at the bank was quiet, numbers on screens, risk reports, conference calls, the ordinary rhythm of a job I was good at. Nobody there knew what was happening on the other side of my life, and I preferred it that way. It was Warren who showed up at my building mid-week. The concierge called up and I told them I wasn't available. He stood in the lobby for 20 minutes, according to the front desk, before he left. Mia sent a long email. She called me calculating, cold, said I was using money as a weapon against people who loved me. I read it once and moved it to a folder I didn't open again. A second week got quieter but heavier. Tad called on a Wednesday night. No aggression this time. He sounded tired. The power got cut at the house, he said. I transferred the account out of my name 3 weeks ago. I sent everyone the login details to take over billing. Did anyone follow up on it? Long pause. We thought you were bluffing. I let that sit there between us for a moment. 6 years of paying, and they thought it was a bluff. The reconnection fee and deposit is on whoever let the bill lapse. That's not me anymore. I heard Milton's voice in the background, sharp and irritated. Tad hung up without saying goodbye. I stood in my kitchen for a while after that, Toronto outside my window doing what Toronto does, busy and indifferent and moving at its own pace. I thought about the version of me that would have opened my banking app right then, transferred the reconnection fee just to avoid the guilt, just to make the noise stop. I didn't open the app. Instead, I sat on my couch and did nothing for a while, just existed in a quiet apartment that was fully paid for with money I earned and kept. It felt unfamiliar. It also felt correct. By the third week, Mia appeared at my building again. This time, she didn't pound on the door or come in hot. She was sitting on the steps outside when I got home from work one evening. She looked smaller than I remembered. She'd found a job, she said, retail. The pay was low, but it was something. She needed to open her own bank account for direct deposit and realised she didn't know how. She'd been an extension of my financial life for so long that she had no independent record anywhere. Go to any branch, bring your ID, it takes 20 minutes. She nodded, eyes down. Dad is blaming you for everything, she said quietly. But I saw the bills before the power went out. I saw the actual numbers, Claire. I didn't say anything. I didn't need her to defend me. I didn't need anyone to finally understand and make it all feel worth it. I was past that. I can't help them, she whispered. I can barely help myself right now. Then help yourself, I said. That's the right order. She left. No drama, no slammed doors. The move-out date was 4 days away. I wasn't counting down. I wasn't dreading it. I was just living my life in the space I had built and paid for and finally got to keep. On the last day, I received a confirmation from the leasing office at 9 a.m. Keys returned, unit cleared, my name officially removed from all associated documents. I was at my desk at work when the email came in. I read it, closed it, answered a question from a colleague about a file we were reviewing. Then I got back to work. That evening, Milton sent an email. No shouting, no threats, just a number, the total of what they owed. Moving costs, motel fees, a request for $5,000 to cover the transition. I read it carefully. Then I looked up the City of Toronto Housing Assistance Programme, copied the link and sent it to him with one line. This is where to start. I closed my laptop and went to bed. The bank was closed, and this time I wasn't going to reopen it.
3 months passed. No dramatic ending, no big confrontation, no moment where everyone sat in a circle and apologised. Life doesn't work like that, and neither did my family. What happened instead was quieter than that. I started noticing small things. My fridge had food I actually chose. My weekends belonged to me. I booked a solo trip to Vancouver in the spring just because I wanted to see the mountains, and nobody needed anything from me that week. I went. It was good. The money I earned stayed where I put it. That sounds simple. It wasn't simple before. Milton was the first one I saw in person. I ran into him at a grocery store near my neighbourhood about 6 weeks after the move-out. He didn't see me at first. He was standing in the cereal aisle, holding 2 boxes, checking the price on both, putting the more expensive one back. He looked older. The kind of older that comes from finally carrying your own weight. I didn't go over. I paid for my things and left. But something about seeing him standing there doing the basic math of a grocery run landed differently than I expected. Not satisfaction, not guilt either, just reality. He was learning the thing I had known since my first apartment at 22. That everything costs something and someone always pays. Warren sent a text in month 2. Short, no setup. He said he'd picked up extra shifts at work and paid his own phone bill for the first time. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't apologize either. He just said it like he was reporting a fact. I replied with one word. Good. That was enough. Luna called on a Thursday evening.
Her voice was different. Not softer exactly, but smaller, less performed. She told me she was working part-time at a medical clinic downtown, reception work. She said her feet hurt at the end of the day and that she'd forgotten what tired actually felt like. She didn't bring up the past, she didn't ask for money. She asked if I had a simple, slow cooker recipe she could make on a budget. I told her I'd send a few over. We talked for maybe 10 minutes about groceries and weather and nothing important. It was the most normal conversation we'd had in years because it was the first one that didn't have an ask buried somewhere inside it. I sent her 3 recipes after we hung up. Milton called on a Sunday about a month after that. He'd moved into a studio closer to a new job he'd started. Small place, he said, nothing fancy, but he'd paid the deposit himself with no cosigner. I told him that was good. Before he hung up, he went quiet for a moment. Milton was not a man who apologized. I knew that. I wasn't waiting for one. But he said this: "I think I understand now what you were trying to tell us about the numbers, Claire." That was it. No grand speech, no breakdown, just a man who'd spent 6 years treating his daughter like a financial buffer, finally doing his own arithmetic and arriving somewhere close to the truth. "I know you do," I said. We hung up. I'm not going to tell you the family was fixed. It wasn't. Dean still hasn't reached out. Tad and I are cordial at best. There are things that were said that didn't disappear just because circumstances changed. But something real did shift. Not because I forgave everyone and we all moved forward together, but because I stopped making myself smaller so they could feel bigger. I stopped funding a version of family that only worked because I was bleeding for it quietly every month. The repair that happened wasn't between us. It was inside me. I'm sitting at my kitchen table on a Saturday morning writing this, coffee going cold beside me. Toronto is doing its thing outside. Grey sky, streetcar bell somewhere down the block. My apartment is quiet. My account is where I left it. I have a flight to catch next month. Just me. Nobody needing anything. Nobody calling with an emergency that turns out to be a lifestyle choice dressed up as a crisis. I'm 34 years old, and for the first time, I know exactly what my life costs and exactly what it's worth. Those 2 numbers finally match, and that's enough.